Dakota, we've never met.
I know, like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, we're talking. It's good.
I found your work on Instagram and I was like, I need to buy this person's work. It immediately struck me as like just so queer and yeah, it reminded me of Donna Haraway and stuff like that. And I got very excited and tracked you down, and we just became social media friends. So this is the first time we're actually talking.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I don't talk a lot even in like some of the videos. So it's like, I don't know, maybe you don't even know what my voice is gonna be like, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's all a surprise. So yeah, your work is intriguing, and I can't wait to talk about that some. But so this is a podcast that's basically for people who struggle with depression or have been through some sort of catastrophe. So if you're on here, I'm sorry, but it usually means that you've been through something and you're doing well now, or comparatively. Yeah,
Let's hope.
comparatively, yes. So what was childhood like for you? Like how
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of a mixed bag. I mean, speaking to your podcast too, it's like it's very depressing growing up in a conservative environment, especially like a rural, more small town one.
yeah.
Like there wasn't a lot to do, not a lot of supportive people. I mean, most of the people I was surrounded with were very conservative, very Republican. It's like very homophobic. So it's kind of like
Mm,
staying in the closet, but also like people knowing that I was, a lot of bullying too.
oh, a lot of bowling.
Bullying, yeah.
Oh, bullying.
Bowling.
Oh,
Well, we had bowling. I
I
mean,
didn't know if it was a thing in North Dakota or
yeah, very
Minnesota,
50s style.
they bully you with bowling balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm so sorry. That's awful. There was a lot of bullying. That I hear this from a lot of people. I'm so sorry.
I get kind
Um,
of jealous of like my kids too, the ones I teach, because especially them growing up in California, they have a lot more like positive experiences, like seeing role models on TV or like more, even more like a community they can reach out to online, go to stuff. It's like they get so much more. I'm like, wow, y'all are really lucky.
oh, they have no idea. They have no idea. I don't know if you know this, but I also teach, and I
Hmm.
go into middle schools and high schools, and yeah, I'm always surprised at how accessible the information is and how much they know. And they're all exploring their gender identity, and it's
Which
just
is really
so,
cool to see. I'm like, wow.
I know it's really fantastic. And yeah, there's a part of me that's like, God damn it.
You're like, let's do some time traveling. you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. When I was your age. um so so you were bullied, and you were did your parents support you, or were they supportive of your queerness, or
Yeah, I mean, they were supportive. I took a while actually to come out to them, probably till the end of high school too. So it's kind of emotional. But then yeah, like my parents are very supportive. Like they're still very supportive now. But like I feel also too, it's like it's kind of funny. I think over time things in North Dakota have changed in a sense. Like my family, even extended family, has like been more accepting or more accepting even like the work I do, the art.
oh
Cause I'm like,
wow.
oh, I was kind of like at first they're like, what are you doing? you know?
Right, right, I can only imagine. But your father has shown with you.
Yeah, so that's really exciting.
That was very cool. I was really excited to see that. That must have been amazing.
And it's still going on too, which is kind of crazy. So I get more reaction even from people in North Dakota too
uh
from it. It's kind of cool. Like it's been really positive.
oh, that's so great. I love to hear that. What tell me, did you have depression, or did you recognize any of that stuff going on?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty depressed as a kid too. I mean, also I didn't really have a lot of friends, only child. I mean, queer experience 101, I guess.
Right, right.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like a lot changed too when I moved away from my hometown, even to my undergrad too, like meeting other people or just getting out to California, like being around so much more. Like it's
Hmm.
obviously a hard adjustment to it's like I came to California when I was 22. So it's like
Oh,
drinking was like, woo, we're going now.
so you were like a little Amish child.
Yeah, without the cool fat clothes.
Right. They do have some style in clothes. were you like, did you suffer from any clinical depression or?
No, I mean, I've known people with clinical depression too, especially North Dakota. I think it's actually really common. I mean, North Dakota is also big, like on people not dealing with it, like alcoholism, especially like
Mhm.
underage drinking is huge.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
yeah, getting away from the bottle, it worked.
So do you have did you suffer through any sort of catastrophic events or
There wasn't really kind of like any crazy event. I guess more like the general like dealing with people too in the long run. I feel like I channel a lot too with my art. Like I kind
yeah.
of bring out that kind of violence and like deal with them like a fun, playful way, kind of like a cartoon would. And I've always
Yeah.
loved like cartoons, like the slapstickness of it. Like you can watch them on TV, it can be suggestive and violent, but the characters still survive no matter what. I was like, oh, that
Mm-hmm.
was really comforting for me. But also too, like I being outside of it now in California, I mean, maybe it's not the most financially stable thing to live in Los Angeles, but like emotionally, it's been very supportive.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. I grew up in Northern Virginia outside of DC. So
Hmm.
even even though it was the 60s and 70s, I still had a sense of it was a liberal town, it was a liberal environment. I was bullied for being fat and a little for being gay, but it wasn't that sort of relentless bullying that my brother got, for instance. I
Ooh.
think if men who read as effeminate or queer tend to get maybe more violence hurled their way than maybe tomboyish girls do.
Yeah, who knows? I think
Yeah.
it's all rough all around though, too. I mean, growing up is bad.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. I just this morning I was doing having an EMDR session with my therapist, and we were really unpacking the sort of gender trauma that I had experienced. Because
Ooh.
I mean, intellectually, I've accepted that, oh, I must have gone through some trauma being in this body and having to, been kind of forced to conform to certain social norms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like that must have been traumatic, but I've never like actually gone under and sort of re-experienced it.
Yeah.
And it was mind-blowing, like how oppressed I felt all the time. And I imagine that you must have experienced some of that too.
It's the stuff you kind of normalize too or excuse, right?
Yeah,
Like you want to move on from.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just sort of incorporate it into your daily life. And how did you express yourself as a queer kid? Like how did that come out?
Oh, I mean, I guess I get more expression when I came to grad school, like that was my big experience moving to California. And I feel like
Mhm.
it also allowed me to like dress any way I wanted to. I mean, that's what's kind of fun. I'm like, wow, even in like a more oppressed environment, like you're kind of toning down like how you dress, how you walk and act too. Also, maybe even like the way you talk too. Like it goes more lower, more butcher. So it's kind of fun,
Wow.
like not caring as much too, like being here now, like having more
Hmm.
kind of freedom to play. And also, I feel like I wouldn't make the work I'm doing if I had stayed in North Dakota. I'd be
Right.
just painting like, my Bob Ross, like Thomas Kincaid style of like, here's my nature scene.
Wow. Yeah. So you went to art school and that was transformative.
Yeah.
I went to art school.
It's transformative or destructive. I mean, I don't know if it's always a good thing. It'll give you demon.
Yeah, it sure will. I mean, I went very briefly to Pratt in New York, and yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah, that was crazy wild. So you go to art school. What happens?
I mean, I feel like the experience more in being California was the transformative bit.
Tell me
Like the
about
grad
that.
school aspect where you're constantly critiquing, self-doubting too, probably isn't the most like mentally stable. So I mean, I guess if anyone listening to is curious about it, like definitely helps to like have a therapist or use those school resources.
So tell me some more about that.
You're
What
constantly
happened?
like
Like,
in self-doubt, you're being criticized. Also, it's hard not to take things personally. Also, people will get personal with you about the work or kind of judging you too. So it's kind of, I don't know, sometimes takes like thick skin and distance going through the process.
oh, being in art school. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you don't know, like you put up this work that I'm just telling people, like if you put up this work that you really are attached to sometimes, and they just like read you for filth. Like they
It'd be like
just,
the same with writing too. It's like putting it out there, you know.
it's worse though. Like when I was in art school, I went for fine art because I draw, and yeah, that was awful. It was brutal, is what it was.
But it makes us better teachers, you know. Like we know what
Yeah,
not to do too.
yeah, I suppose. Yeah. So tell me about this, the transformation, like what happened to you and for you.
Wow. Like being here gave me so much access to seeing images, but also meeting people. I mean, I guess specifically more of like a gay queer experience. My first time at a gay bar was here in California.
Oh,
I'd also
wow.
never been to a pride before too. So like that was very
Oh, in your
transformative.
20s?
Yeah.
That's so amazing. That must have been so awesome. What was it like?
It's weird because like when you're away from that, you're like, okay, you're watching vicariously, almost like you want that. You don't identify with it, but being in it, I don't know, it's like really kind of magical.
Mhm.
I mean, it gets sappy like it was, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the funny thing about Pride, at least for me, is like I always resist it because it's so corporate and
Oh
commercial.
yeah,
And
now I'm tired of it. But like
yeah,
at that moment, I was like,
yeah, but those early prides, exactly. They're like blow your mind. And honestly, Dakota, when I go back for whatever reason to visit a pride, it still gets me. Like I don't want to be there, but there's something just so moving about that. All the young people who are like, wearing unicorn shit or
yeah,
whatever.
why not?
Yeah,
I should have worn a
yay.
unicorn horn today.
No. Thank you for not doing that. Yeah, so you had the experience of a young kid, a young gay kid. I don't know how you identify. Do you identify as gay?
Yeah, I use queer too. I mean,
Queer?
whatever is
Mhm.
convenient. I mean, it's kind of funny, like when you're coming from the rural, like I knew about queer theory or like people writing about it. I never really identified with it because even like rural parts, it's still just used as a slur. Like the gay
Mhm.
community there doesn't really like using it. Maybe
Mm.
now too with like younger kids coming up, that's changed. But like now coming to California and being more the community, I like using more queer because it's also
Yeah.
more fluid for gender too.
Totally. Yeah. I love queer. It's sort of for me, like I always identify as an artist kind of first because that's what informs literally
Yeah,
everything I
you're
do, and
creative.
including my sexuality. But as far as like my sexuality and gender, I feel very queer. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's more creative, like interplay with like the word queer can be anything. It's the other, right? You know, like it's my box
Yes.
of crayons.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how you work, is with crayons, right? Your work is so incredible. Like, I just want to describe a piece, like, as a for instance, you would draw like a cowboy hat or and a uterus with goats in it, and like you would attach this to your body and maybe have fingernails and tendrils of tentacles or something coming, like it's amazing. I love it so much. Are you
Yeah.
vegan or
Oh
vegetarian?
no, I mean, I kind of eat more a little more pescatarian. I haven't completely give up meat, but it's kind of rare that I eat it now. I mean, that was another thing. Like now that I'm here, kind of surrounded by it, like, oh, there's more options to eat different stuff. I mean, back where I always grew up is all meat, meat, meat. I never really thought about too like where it was coming from or even like how our farms were treating animals.
Right. Wow. Because your work seems very like about animals and
Yeah.
violence.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's my complicated issues with my like my food and my diet, you know. I haven't really worked it out.
So it's just sort of emerging, erupting onto
Yeah.
in your little box of crayons.
I promise I won't eat a burger after this.
You do what you want, you queer man.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about your work. Like when did that start happening? Like, because your work, frankly, it's both playful and very dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like me. It's like I love using humor to like kind of deal with stuff too. And I've always been interested in animals coming where I'm from. Like my relatives, I still have many of them who are farmers. So I
Hmm.
grew up seeing like images of deer on the walls, you know, the deer mounted heads. So it's like I kind of pull a lot from that, but then kind of use it to more explore issues like my body. It also is a way to play with gender too. Like at the
Yeah.
same time, I can become like an animal. I can also become like a woman. I can be on both. I give birth a lot in my work,
Yes, you do.
and it hurts. No, I don't know.
It looks like it hurts.
Right? I'm like, call a doctor.
Right. Well, and sometimes you'll be like giving birth and brandishing a knife or something, it's like, it's pretty wild.
I'm giving
So,
you lunch and dinner.
yes, you are. You had to go through some kind of transformation is like maybe not the right word, but to get from Bob Ross to where you're at, like how
Yeah.
did that happen?
I mean, wow, I've always slowly been teasing like animals interacting with humans, but it's probably more
Mhm.
since the pandemic. I kind of just like latched onto it, did it from my room, and it's kind of pulling back to more of like the queer heroes. I guess like more kind of an East Coast thing, like Lee Bowery, like
Mhm.
giving birth on stage, Divine doing it, Female Trouble too, like kind of pulling from that more like over topness, or also like I'm
Yeah.
a lover of horror films.
Oh, really? Like,
Horror. Sorry, I can't enunciate.
I mean, either.
I'm like,
Yeah.
you're learning. I'm making up words today.
I mean, horror films are good too, but I was just listening to the Boulay brothers yesterday talk about House of Wax. I don't know if you
Ooh,
have you seen that movie or heard of
the
it?
original or the
The
remake?
original. They were talking about the
Ooh, the
original.
original, the classic of Vincent Price, right?
Yes. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it made me want to see it. I'm interested. I like body horror a lot. I like Cronenberg and I don't know, that kind of stuff.
I think it relates a lot to like being queer or even being trans. It's like that, like use of the body, disidentification with it, transformation. It has all of it. Like it's messy,
Hmm.
beautiful. I don't know. There's something really relatable about body horror.
Hmm. Yeah. What's that for you? Like what can you talk about like your relationship to your body and that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it kind of I pull back from like those past experiences being bullied, growing up in a culture of violence, and so it's a way to kind of acknowledge it and like own it, transform it, also play with it, make it funny and beautiful too. I love that I
Hmm.
can gut myself in these like images and still survive.
Mm.
And like Cronenberg is such like a big inspiration too, like on my work. I mean, I think back to like Videodrome, like where he's kind of melding like
Yes.
the media or Existenzo's a video game one. So
Hmm.
it's like me doing that with like a cartoon figure.
Okay. That makes so much sense. Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. Yeah, I love that stuff. And it is so over the top. I see why people just can't stand it because it's so camp, you
Yeah.
know. It's just so super camp, even as it's like horrible. And did you have a fascination for the grotesque as a kid or
Yeah, I mean in some ways it's also kind of cathartic to watch. Like you can you can kind of see like revenge placed on people. It's like even horror movies, it's like the bullies get killed, like that's
that's
fun to see.
true. I didn't think about that. That's really true. Yeah, and it is sort of a queer phenomenon, this love of horror and this. So say more though about the body thing because I think this is very specific and it could
Yeah.
be.
Oh yeah, my art is always like a way, or even like the movies. I love the fact that it's a way to kind of play with my body and kind of explore like different gender roles, even or even different species too. It's
Mhm,
like it's also kind of like gave me a lot more almost confidence in my body too, that like I can transform it beyond kind of what it is, like physically exist.
mhm,
As I'm aging too, it's like I've kind of almost cared less about like how I look because I'm drawing to enhance it in different
mhm.
ways.
Is there a discomfort in the body?
I like my body now. I mean, initially, yeah, like you could see it too. Like I kind of exaggerate features, or it's kind of funny. Like sometimes I use the stuff to play with like masculinity. Like I've
Mhm,
done ones that swing more like very butch
mhm.
too, and kind of
I've
like
seen
because
that.
I'm not that butch in real life.
Right. Right. Well, you do use a lot of like sort of archetypes, like the cowboy, and I guess that is that from where you grew up.
Yeah, I'm also a big fan of Westerns, or like,
Hmm.
okay, Joan Crawford and Johnny Guitar is my favorite because it's bonkers and
Shut
beautiful.
up. I love that movie so
It's so good.
much. I love this. I love the theme song too.
Oh,
It's
Peggy Lee did it.
it's running in my head right now. Yeah, yeah. Peggy Lee did it.
I think she's
Also,
from North Dakota or like some Midwest place too. I don't like her. I think I'm like,
if
there's a
well,
connection.
if you haven't, I'm saying this to the general population. If you haven't seen Johnny Guitar, and if you're any kind of film person, like you've got to see Johnny Guitar. It's amazing. It's super amazing film.
It's so beautiful, like just gorgeous to watch.
Hmm. It's gorgeous to watch, and it's ridiculous and awesome. So, so it sounds like we have a lot of similar sort of aesthetic interests, maybe.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's kind of like the vibe, the initial connection too. It's like understanding references or like even kind of maybe how we relate to our own selves, like the identity, the body.
Hmm.
And I should be like at the end of this, like, no, I'm a straight dude. I don't why not?
Yeah, I still struggle with the body, but I think that's the nature for it's the nature of my
Yeah.
transgenderness is to always be like it's just almost there, it's like Tantalus or something, the grapes are almost in reach, but it's just not going to happen.
Or it has. I don't know. Or
Or it
you know,
has.
who
There
knows?
is a there. I thought like on my testosterone journey that I would be forever on this, morphing and changing, but there was a place where it was like, oh, this is where I am and this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also
Yeah.
you're a very creative person too. Like I think it's like the way we overanalyze too. Maybe it's compared to someone who's like not a writer, an artist. The way we kind of process ourselves, almost like philosophize for better or for worse, right?
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The only thing that I have to offer is my story. And some people, they can't write about themselves or, do their work around themselves at all. And I can't do anything but I wish I could. I might make
Right.
money.
We're gonna work at an office job right after this.
Well, don't say that.
Right. Oh.
Because do you like what you do generally?
Yeah, I like what I do. I like teaching, making art. I mean, I've had a pretty good experience like coming out here. I don't make a lot of money, but I'd
Right.
make ends meet.
Mhm.
I mean,
That's
I live in a
good.
small studio apartment, so it's not a glamorous life.
Well, I mean, are you in LA exactly or?
Yeah, I mean, specifically, I'm in Pasadena area, so
Oh,
I'm like
okay.
10, 15 minutes away from downtown.
Yeah,
They're all the same. Everything runs together here.
I know Pasadena, sure. Yeah. Rents
I
are a
live
little
next to a
cheaper.
KFC.
Wow. I don't know. That's somehow makes so much sense. Like
I'm
I
processing the
suddenly,
trauma there.
yeah, yeah. I'm so making that connection. Um, so did you have you've got a lot of food in your work. Can you tell me about that? Like, what's the deal with the food?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I grew up eating. I mean, I guess growing up. Oh God.
Dakota Noot t-shirts. I grew up eating.
Or like Oprah is like, I love bread. Yeah, I grew up actually like a heavier kid too, like getting like all my clothes from the husky section. I mean, so I guess a
Same,
lot of it's
same.
like my body's changed a lot over time, fluctuated. Also, I love the fact that like food itself kind of relates back to the animals, like the processing, how it's treated, what we're eating. I love
Mhm.
it's kind of like my own mutant horror sci-fi fantasy with like how some of the food is made. Like I draw a lot more of the processed foods like hot dogs.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Yeah, and that food is like body horror food. Yeah, and by that I mean like it's gone through such a process to get there. So such a mutilation and yeah,
That's where we live
mutilation.
in.
That's the world we live in. Yeah. So you're laughing and you've got this, kind of funny work, but there is a very dark thing happening. I mean, the things you're talking about are very heavy and dark. Like, is the work the way that you go there, or that you work through that, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of my way working through it. I feel like a lot of people kind of relate to, even if like maybe you're not interested in like animal meats, maybe it's like the political situation going on right now of different countries. It's almost like that feeling of like helplessness too. It's like you personally can't necessarily maybe feel like you can make a change because it's more like societal, it's more of the governments, people in power above us making some of that, or
Mhm.
corporations. I feel like maybe humor is a way just to deal with it and process it on an individual level. Like instead of feeling powerless, at least like you're making some like light of it, laughing at humor out of it, and
Well,
acknowledging it too.
I guess when I imagine when you're, you know, drawing your stuff, that you're not laughing. That's not what I imagine. Are you?
I mostly kind of like zone out, very trance.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
And I pop in a few movies more for background noise.
Oh yeah, what do you pop in usually?
Oh, Johnny Guitar has been a good one. I feel like I go for more soundtracky stuff. So like Forbidden Zone is really good if you like 80s, Oingo Boingo.
Oh, I don't think I've seen Forbidden Zone.
I think you'll like it. It's almost kind of like a John Waters movie that wasn't made by John Waters. Like that's the vibe
Oh,
of it.
okay, cool. This is a very deep cut, but I've been going through an LA streak, I guess, because I just interviewed my friend Mo Fisher, who is Moby Dick, the drag
that's
king.
that's great.
Oh, you don't know Moby Dick?
That
You
that
sh
name is really great.
Yeah, yeah, she's great. But she's in a John Waters film. She's in Pecker, which
Oh, I just saw Picker actually.
you did. The go-go boy who teabags, that's Moby Dick.
That's funny.
Yeah, yeah, she does that. Yeah.
That's
What pulled you to LA?
I mean, kind of the weather a bit, but also like I grew up watching so much and wanting to kind of escape into that TV, that movie world. There was
Mhm.
kind of that pull of like just being here where it all is. It's almost like I live inside the TV set right now.
Oh my God, I love that. That's so perfect. Yeah. Yeah, you kind of do when you're in LA. I always feel like that, like I'm being filmed somehow.
Which maybe gets a little bit with like the New York thing, but I think also you get more like theater stuff too, just a different vibe.
Hmm. Yeah, so the pull, like instead of going to say New York or Chicago, was partly the weather. What happened, like in terms of like romance and dating for you?
Oh
Do
yeah,
you
I mean,
date?
I'm married now
Oh, you're married.
actually. Yeah.
Hmm.
So no crazy. Yeah, but I mean, wow, that was actually a big thing. It's like when I grew up, North Dakota, there wasn't dating because it's just like closet guys, lots of married men, more of like very down low types too.
Yeah.
But like here there isn't. Like when I was coming here in like grad school or beyond, I was like just dating people to go out and meet people. I'm like, that was such a that was also a really crazy experience I never thought I would have.
What was that like?
Amazing. Also embarrassing too. Like I have a crazy date story where like I was taken to a roller rink date and I couldn't
Uh-huh.
do that. I still can't. I kept just falling on my butt the whole time and these kids are laughing at me. But hey, it's California. Why not?
And that was the date.
Yeah. I'm like, went well.
How did the date go other than that?
There was no second date.
Yeah. Right. Wow. Mm. Yeah, I just kind of came out as gay. I'd been living with a woman until a few years ago, and had a kind of a sexuality flip. And I mean, I've always not dated, but I've never had a problem having sex with whatever gender, but
Yeah.
I definitely have like a romantic attraction to men, and that's new for me. And when I first discovered that, I kind of hit the apps hard.
I
Yeah.
they're ready,
Like,
ready and willing.
wee. Yeah, but it can get you into some trouble. So I've and COVID kind of interrupted that, thankfully. Yeah, how has your COVID experience been?
Crazy. I mean, at times like the isolation is, I mean, it's like sad to deal with, but overall,
Hmm.
like it's been a very creative time. I feel like that's why I made so much, is almost like it was very distracting to make.
Hmm.
So like
Hmm.
there was kind of like the fun, the play of just like, I'm gonna make as much as I can. Cause like before COVID, my classes, since I work as an adjunct part-time at two different schools, I was mostly driving a lot too with it. Like
Oh,
I didn't really have the time to do a lot. So I
yeah.
just kind of took it, saw what happened. I guess that's also like why, like we connected, why I'm here now is because I just made a bunch of stuff.
Right, right. Yeah. That's a pretty cool response. I mean, mine was sinking into a deep depression. So
I should have given you some crayons, like here.
seriously,
It'll
god
work.
damn it. So you're coloring and you're making a lot of stuff. Are you in treatment or do you see a therapist?
No, not currently too. It's like I kind of was on a time period where I didn't have healthcare, but now with being married, also getting like more of the benefits, I'm back on it too,
Hmm.
which is kind of exciting. And like also
Yeah,
California has probably better healthcare than some other states with like the
yeah.
whole Medi-Cal situation. So maybe
Hmm.
that decides where some people listening maybe want to move to someday if they're not getting it in their home state. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's a good reason to move, actually. I mean, aside from the weather, healthcare is a great reason to move, especially if you're looking for like gender affirming surgeries or medications.
Go to states that actually acknowledge it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think to be an artist and making art and getting paid for it, even if it's teaching, like it's not directly the art, it's a great gig. Like you're doing really well.
Yeah, it's also probably why I don't always think about like having to sell the work always too. I mean, I'll give you something after this, but I'm like I can kind of make what I want. Like I don't have to always make something that's very safe.
Hmm.
Too, that's more sellable, more commercial, just because like I'm in a place where I live off of my teaching.
That's awesome. Did you just say you'd gift me with something?
Yeah, I could give you something after this. I mean,
Did,
it's on recording. Yeah.
that's phenomenal. I mean, that. Thank you. That's really nice. Thank you. I love
Yeah,
your stuff, as you know.
hopefully.
Yeah, I just wanted to get this weirdo art guy onto my show, by which I'm talking about myself.
Right, that yes. I'm actually the interviewer for you. Just kidding.
Yeah, it should be probably. Um, is there anything else you can say about your work? Like, I guess what I'm getting at is there's a real darkness that I'm not picking up from you. And I don't know, that's either like really fantastic compartmentalization or you your stuff is just randomly violent.
I mean, I feel like I compartmentalize too, like even like how I naturally talk. It's like I laugh, like I have a lot of like awkward laughter or like laughing
Hmm.
at stuff. Not saying like
Hmm.
we're not being funny, but like even in general teaching, like or I notice that like I laugh a lot or I always make jokes out of things. It's like my way to cope.
Oh,
It's
totally.
probably a lot
Yeah.
like the work.
Yeah. What's your sign?
Aries.
You're an Aries. Okay.
I think
And
I'm like a playful sign. I'm like,
well, yeah, what are you? Aries is the ram, right?
yeah,
So I just use for frolicking around a pasture.
that's what I'm gonna do after this.
You're gonna frolic. Exactly. So you met your husband after a slew of dating, I suppose. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
How long have you been together?
Uh we've been married for like a year, but we've been dating probably for a few, three-ish.
Hmm.
Kind of a blur, yeah.
Yeah, time is weird. I have no sense of chronology.
Especially with the pandemic, like it kind of is like, oh yeah, it's like it's been 2 years. I'm like, really? Okay.
Hmm. Hmm. You could tell me it's been 5 years or 2 months. You could tell me that. I would be okay.
2 weeks.
Seriously. So you met, where'd you meet your husband?
We actually met each other on Instagram, like kind of mutual connections. I
Oh,
commented, we started
nice.
messaging.
Oh, that's so great. And then what
I know
happened?
grinder story today.
It's all right.
I wish. I don't know. Like,
So
it
you
was a
just
Craigslist ad. Just kidding.
Craigslist ads, that period of time, all the only thing I can think of is like being murdered in a hotel room.
We're survivors. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. I really bet. I mean, it's still like that to date, is to show up and have a kind of a contract of like, we're not going to kill each other, right?
Right. I'm gonna tell someone the address.
Yeah. So what are you working on now?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm actually kind of just working on, and hopefully it comes out by the end of like April, but it's like a paper doll book. So you can cut it out
Mhm.
and color it in into like little paper doll figures.
Oh my God, really? I love that. Like what
Yeah,
kind
so I'm
of
like they're kind of fun. Like there's two alien ones, and then they can dress up as different animal creatures. So it's kind of like me and my work.
Oh, totally. I love that. Dakota, I can't wait for that. Do you have a
I'm
publisher? Or are
like,
you
okay,
gonna
I'm like, fingers crossed. It's like the printing works out, but I'm like, it'll be good.
uh-huh. Yeah, I guess you have to print that on nice paper.
Yeah, there was a like an independent thing that like connected up with me, so they're doing it. It's more of like just them making the deadlines on stuff,
Oh my God, that's great. I
which I'm good.
love
I'm like,
that.
okay, here's some
Mm-hmm.
designs.
Mm-hmm. You good with deadlines and stuff? Yeah.
Hopefully, we're both on time today.
Yes, we were. Yes, good for us.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that sounds like a fantastic project. I love that for you.
yeah. Like, who knows what's next?
What do you hope would be next?
I kind of want to mess around with more like films too, in terms of like making something more performative. I mean, going back to John Waters or like even like the 60s, like Warhol too, Jack Smith. I love very kind of like punk underground movies. I
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been doing more performance in the videos like on my social media. I'm kind of want to play with that a bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. You might like my new book that is coming out soon. Because it has a period of time that's like very underground New York scene
Ooh.
in like the 80s and stuff.
I was just gonna ask when it's gonna come out, but I'm like, maybe
Oh,
you can't say.
yeah, I think it's coming out April 2nd,
Ooh,
but the book signing, like the release party, is May 12th. So I'm sort of keeping it on the DL until then, or
it'll
yeah.
be good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's such a crapshoot. We'll see if anyone shows up.
And then
You know
like
what?
it'll be like everyone you know, like you'll be surprised.
I hope so, but you can't expect that. This is such the work that we do is like, it's for an audience, but where's the audience sometimes?
Yeah. I mean that's also true too. Speaking back like even to depression too, it's like when you're creative, you have to kind of almost like get used to like no one showing up to something
Hmm.
or carrying like kind of having the drive to like keep making, keep doing it, and also not taking it as like a judgment against anything you do.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. You get some thick skin. I grew up playing in bands like in the 80s and 90s,
Ooh.
and
So you've done worse. Like, yeah, you've gone through that.
I mean, when you're playing for three people and two of them are your parents, you get used to that. But I don't want that anymore. Like I'm so over that. So I'm ready to have a good sized audience, but
It'll be good. Like it'll turn out.
I hope so. Do you get good turnouts at your shows?
I haven't had like an in-person thing actually in a while. Well,
Mm,
actually, recently I've been showing some more of like colleges too, showing my work. They've had good
mm-hmm,
turnouts of students. But yeah, most stuff I've done has just been online, like more
mm-hmm.
online shows, virtual stuff.
I wish you would sell online. I wish you'd make shirts or something.
Who knows? Maybe that's where this paper doll thing leads to.
Yeah, yeah, get some merch. I want some Dakota Noot merch.
Free signings.
Yeah, exactly. Well, is there anything that you want to say to people or have to share
Yeah, I
about?
mean, I guess overall, like I removed myself from a situation that was kind of hard for me to maybe you're not, you can't do that. Maybe you're stuck where you are financially, living home with your parents. But I mean, My work's made at home with a box of crayons and paper, like stuff you could get from a 99-cent store. It's like you can kind of make these moments and transform yourself from at home or wherever you're at.
That's really powerful, and that's really true. It's really, really true. If you want to do it, you can find ways. Like with this podcast, I didn't know I don't know how to do a podcast.
You don't need
That
to. Like it's more just like you know how to have a conversation. Like
I know how to conversation.
that's
Yeah,
the most important
exactly.
part.
Exactly.
You
Yeah. The
clicked
rest of
on.
it, the rest of it will come. I mean, in terms of equipment or whatnot. But yeah, it's been delightful talking with you. I hope we get to talk again.
Yeah, let's keep chatting to also, yeah, like I'll send you something to send me your dress later.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
All right. Well, have a great rest of your day,
you
Dakota. It was
too.
so fun to talk to you. What a nice relief from like incredible trauma and
I know. Hopefully I was kind of a clown, like